Are you thinking about buying land in the East Tennessee area or Tennessee in general? Well, I might have something really cool for you, which is a tax break. I know a lot of people consider Tennessee because of our low taxes, but this is specifically related to properties of 15 acres or more. So let's check it out. In 1976, the Agricultural, Forest, and Open Space Land Act, commonly referred to as the Greenbelt Law, was passed. And specifically, this law permits qualifying land to be assessed for property taxes at its current use value rather than its fair market value, which might be based on a more intensive use. So, translation, it is allowing you to have a lower valuation on your property, aka lower tax, than the best and most highest use of the land. Because if you're using that land at its best and use value, if this was a big building, commerce or whatever, that would be more taxes. Well, this is agricultural. So this is one example of a piece of property that qualifies for this tax break. So specifically, this piece of property is 17.5 acres and it is qualified as agricultural. The owner of this property had it basically applied for Greenbelt status and now gets a tax incentive because this property qualifies for that. So there are three specific types of properties that qualify for Greenbelt status. Now, I do want to say that in order, I'm not a tax person. I am not a tax law person. I'm not part of the county commission here in Roane County where this specific piece of property is. I'm just telling you, I'm not an expert in this. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to make a video and somebody rolls up. Okay, so 3 types of land qualify for the Greenbelt tax incentive. Agricultural, forest land, and open space. So for the agricultural and the forest land, the key number there is 15 acres. So for both of those, we're talking 15 acres of land total. Now for forest land, that could be 15, maybe you have 8 on one side, 7 on the other, or whatever. It could be a combination. It really just depends. Obviously, like I said, I'm not a tax assessor. I'm not a Greenbelt tax assessor, none of those things. So just keep that in mind. So when you apply, just know that the key number is 15. So specifically when it comes to agricultural, I'm going to read this directly from the application for the Greenbelt assessment. Application for the Greenbelt assessment. So for land to qualify for the agricultural land classification, it must meet at least 15 acres, which we've talked about, and include woodlands, wastelands, and other things. So essentially, it must either be constituting a farm unit engaged in the production or growing of agricultural products, or have been farmed by the owner or the owner's parent or spouse for at least 25 years and can be used as the residence of the owner and not used for any purpose inconsistent with an agricultural use. Then it goes on to say the assessor may presume that the property is used as agricultural land if it produces gross agricultural income averaging at least $1,500 over a 3-year period, which that's $500 a year. For those of you that just like to do some basic math. However, the assessor will also consider other available evidence indicating how the property is actually used. The assessor may ask for information concerning property income, ownership, and other information needed to determine how the property is used and how it would be valued. So essentially, number 1, is it 15 acres? Number 2, would it be considered agricultural or forest land? And you can do that based on what I'm about to read you also about forest land. So this specific property qualifies for that agricultural assessment and therefore gets that Greenbelt tax incentive. So when it comes to forest land means land constituting a forest unit engaged in the growing of trees under a sound program of sustained yield management that has tree growth in such quantity and quality and is so managed as to constitute a forest. Which there's a way for you to know, does that even exist? So just hold tight for that. To be eligible as forest land, property must meet one of the following minimum size requirements of the following. Number 1, a single tract of at least 15 acres, or number 2, it must be 2 non-contiguous tracts within the same county totaling at least 15 acres that are separated only by a road, body of water, or public or private easement, and together constitute a forest unit. The assessor may consult the state forester in determining whether your land qualifies. So the interesting thing when it comes to forest land is when you apply for forest land, like a forest land tax incentive, I want to read this directly for you. A forest management plan is required. And so in order for it to even qualify, you have to submit a forest management plan. There is a template on the state website where you can find this. It's basically, it says forest management plan template. And you don't have to use a certified forester for that, but basically, and the state will not provide that for you, but they have a list of contractors on their website of who could help you with that plan. So just kind of keep that in mind. In order, it's a little bit, to me, in my mind, like I've not gone through this process, but based on what I'm researching, it seems as if forest land is a little bit more legwork simply based on the fact that you have to have a management plan for the trees. So anyways, now the third option that does not require 15 acres is called an open space. It's called open space land. And what that is, hang with me. Open space land is land of 3 acres or more, other than agriculture or forest land, obviously, in an open or natural condition whose preservation would further goals specified in the Greenbelt Law. Qualifying properties must be designated for open space preservation by local or state planning authorities or the State Commissioner of Environment and Conservation. So open space easements executed for the benefit of local government or qualified conservation organization can also qualify under the Greenbelt Law. So open space, 3 acres or more. So just another note about open space. Many individual home and property owners with land in or near urban areas can qualify. So this is typically like closer in based on what I'm reading. And these are pieces of property that are open. They're in their natural condition. They've not been developed. And the idea is that by basically deeming these as open land space, you're conserving the land in the community, and aiding in, natural wildlife, basically keeping the nature alive in that specific area. So anyways, I think that's super interesting. I think that obviously if you're in a position where you're considering purchasing a piece of property of 15 acres or more, this would certainly be something to consider, whether it's like this, used for agricultural, or it could be considered forest land. Now for that forest land assessment, like I said, you're going to have a forest management plan, and so that's a little bit more legwork. And obviously, like with this, my specific clients on this property, like their goal is to build a farmhouse, have animals on it, and as a result of what their intention is for the land, they were able to get approval to use it as a part of agricultural land for a Greenbelt tax incentive. So essentially the idea is it's providing tax relief for people that have land and they may not be using it, for the highest market value. And so the term that I keep reading as I'm reading about Greenbelt is it's the idea of current use versus market value. So the idea is that, you could, like I said, build some sort of big commerce here and use this land to develop and, put an apartment building here, and that would certainly up the value of the land. However, like this is farmland. We're out in Roane County. This is where people are wanting to have a farm and use the property. It's beautiful, right? So it's not really about, is the land beautiful or not. I'm just saying that the idea is it's being taxed on its current use, and therefore that provides a tax incentive or lower taxes for people that get their property either assessed as agricultural, forest, or open space. So anyways, that is a little bit about the Greenbelt Law. Again, it was enacted in 1976. And it is an opportunity for landowners to get some tax incentive based on how they're using the land. You do have to have it assessed. You have to apply for that, and then a state assessor will come out bugs, a state assessor will come out and assess the land and see does it qualify for either agricultural, forest, or open space, depending on which one you are applying for. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful. If you're thinking about land in the East Tennessee area, check out some of my other land videos. I've done a couple videos on what's needed when you purchase land. If you want to develop that land, if you're wanting to build on the land, you got to think about things like septic. You've got to think about things like, does it need a well, electricity, internet service, all of those things. But specifically, when you're thinking about 15 acres or more, you could very well qualify for some tax incentives through the Greenbelt Law. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you next time.